They did it, Andy. Ohio State has won the national championship. The Buckeyes completing one of the most spectacular national championship runs in college football history, going from the lowest of lows 6 weeks ago, losing to Michigan in the end of a regular season, to winning 4 straight games in the college football playoff, fulfilling the prophecy that started when this season began. This Ohio State football team was supposed to be the one with which Ryan Day was going to win his first national championship, and they got the job done here tonight in Atlanta. Ohio State beating Notre Dame 34-23 to claim the 9th national title in program history.
Walking in the locker room post-game, Dan, I mean, just the smell of cigar smoke everywhere. Just the way the senior class, you talk about whether it's 4th year or 5th year, there's a group of seniors who never beat Michigan, but went through all of this heartache, went through all of this strife, went through all of the turmoil, and found a way to galvanize after their 4th consecutive loss to Michigan. Had that team meeting that's been talked about where all those grievances were aired and those honest conversations were had. And all of the losses, it feels like, all the pain that these seniors have been through, that Ryan Day has been through, built to this moment. And talking with Josh Fryer after the game and the pure elation on his face, he put it, I think, better than I could have even. When you look back at this team, you beat Utah in the Rose Bowl in 2021. You beat Oregon in the Rose Bowl this year on this journey. A year ago, the Cotton Bowl, that loss to Missouri, when all the seniors decided to come back, or most of them anyway, to run this back. Jack leading that group, but all of them, getting in the group text and deciding to come back. You go and you beat Texas at the Cotton Bowl, and it was on this field 2 years ago where you fell 1 point short of a Georgia team that went on and smacked TCU, and you're wondering what could have been, and maybe winning a national title that year. The 4-year arc of this team is incredible, and they did it in a historic way to close it off. When you talk about the 4-game run to a national championship, something no team has ever done before, because it is the first 12-team playoff, and you really couldn't have written it any better for this Ohio State team. The ultimate defeat, the ultimate down, the ultimate valley of November 30th, to then pull off the ultimate triumph and forever etch their names in Ohio State history.
I was in there at the locker room with you, Andy, and but one of the things that really came up a lot in talking to the players, especially those seniors, was all the adversity they've gone through makes this moment that much sweeter. Going into the season, this was supposed to be a team that ran roughshod through everybody, went undefeated, won all the games, and that would have been great. But I think it's that much sweeter now that things didn't always go according to plan. And there's so many examples of guys on this team who were criticized, who, had their ups and downs throughout the season, who at the end of the day delivered when Ohio State needed them most. You think back to the defense, how maligned they were in that first game against Oregon, and then to go the rest of the season and firmly establish himself as the best defense in the country. You think of a guy like Denzel Burke, who had, that game, and he bounces back, plays well the rest of the year, helps them win a national championship. You think of a guy like Jaden Fielding, who was the GOAT in many people's eyes in that Michigan game. He comes out here tonight, makes 2 big field goals, including the game clincher for the Buckeyes. And then a guy like Will Howard, who frankly did not get the credit that he deserved this season, but I think he's going to get it now. He wins the MVP of a national championship game. Fantastic performance tonight. Breaks Ohio State's single season completion record. I think there's been this hesitancy to, there's been this feeling of like everything he's done well has had to be qualified, that he's not CJ Stroud, that he's not Justin Fields, he's not Dwayne Haskins. All those guys, fantastic quarterbacks. But guess what? Will Howard just did something they didn't. He just won a national championship. I think he proved that he was the perfect guy to lead this team. Maybe I didn't believe that at all times. Maybe there were a lot of skeptics going into the year, some of the stuff we saw in spring practices and whatnot. But he just got better and better. And when this team needed him to be at his best in the college football playoff, he sure was.
And you go into the nuts and bolts of this game. This was the most we've seen him run the ball. And I feel like there were key moments in this game where he made big plays with his legs. Obviously, the runs to convert 3 different third downs in the first half with his legs. They ran Howard Power as it's being coined on several occasions in big moments. But even extending plays, rolling out and finding Emeka Egbuka up the sideline in the first half to extend a drive, doing little things like that. And the throw to Jeremiah Smith, which really, before the Jaden Fielding field goal, is what I think goes down as the play that ultimately clinches this game. When Notre Dame had come back from down 24 to make it an 8-point game, getting 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions. It was 3rd and 11. You think Ohio State might just come out, run the ball, and punt it and hope their defense can hold up for the last 2 minutes of the game. But no, they take a shot downfield. I tweeted it out on 3 different occasions this playoffs. I tweeted it out one more time after that pass was completed. F it 4 down there somewhere. Find that man. He is emerging as the best receiver in college football, had a great performance to close a phenomenal freshman year, but was far from the only one. Brandon Ennis got involved in the game plan. Carnell Tate made a couple key catches in this game. Emeka Egbuka breaks Ohio State's career receptions record with another really good performance, cementing his legacy really. And just this senior class, again, making plays, and Will Howard is among that senior group of guys that just fueled an unbelievable season for Ohio State as you sit here and look back on it, really.
Chase, could you zoom us out a little bit and jump on in here with us? You are someone who grew up in Columbus. Your mom is a coach here at Ohio State. You've been a fan your whole life. To see this run, just what's it been like for you to be along for the ride and watch the Buckeyes win a national title?
Yeah, it's hard to describe. There was lots of people I even ran into on the field when I came down to get video and pictures of the celebration. And you can just see the emotion in people's eyes. You can see the emotion in the way that they're carrying themselves. After a moment like that, it's not only a moment of complete relief, it's also pure elation. But like the smiles that you could see not only on the coaches' faces, the faces of their families, the faces of the fans that were sitting in the stands. There wasn't a single Ohio State fan that left this stadium until they started tearing down the stage. Everyone that was here in this building tonight knew the magnitude of this moment, and I think it's made that much more special when you have people who are here from Ohio. They knew that this team had been through so much. They knew that this team had been through so much adversity. And to see what they've overcome this year is unprecedented. I also tweeted out a little bit earlier the run that they went on to beat Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and then Notre Dame. I only put their seedings in the college football playoff. If you look at their AP rankings, it's even that much greater. And it's just hard for me to imagine, earlier this year they lost to Oregon, and we had all this conversation about can Ryan Day beat top 5 teams in the AP poll? Well, he just beat 4 in a row to win a national championship. And so I think everyone in Ohio is happy. I think the moment is just so, it's tangible. You can really feel it here.
I think Chase and I both made the joke on social media after the game of Ryan Day's America, and how that sentence has just changed over the last 6 weeks. Because we talked about it. We were up at the Ohio Stadium press box 6 weeks ago, whenever that was, after the Ohio State-Michigan game, and we both said it on camera. We said Ryan Day should be coaching for his job in the CFP. I felt like they had to win at least 1 CFP game. You felt like they had to win at least 2 CFP games. Yeah. Whether any of that was the truth, we'll never know. What we know now is Ryan Day ain't going anywhere, and Ryan Day just went from being the pariah in Columbus to a hero in Columbus. He's not going to get fired. He'll probably get a nice contract extension and a nice raise because he's a national champion coach. You think of the company that puts Ryan Day in. Paul Brown, Woody Hayes, Urban Meyer, Jim Tressel, Ryan Day. Those are the coaches that have won a national championship at Ohio State. And we talk all about the talent on this team. But I think Ryan Day deserves a ton of credit for what happened here in this college football playoff, because this team could have splintered. This team could have fallen apart. I mean, the amount of criticism they received after that Michigan loss. We've heard about the meetings, the intense meetings that they had, players, going after each other, really calling each other out, holding each other accountable. that could have splintered this team, and they could have fizzled out early in the CFP, and we would have been talking about this being one of the most disappointing seasons in Ohio State history. Instead, we're talking about one of the greatest championship runs we've ever seen, and it all starts with the leadership Ryan Day showed, along with all those seniors that you mentioned.
Yeah, he's now one of the best coaches in the country. I mean, there's only 2 others nationally that are currently active that have won a national title. It's him, it's Kirby Smart, and Dabo Swinney, and that's it. The national narrative around him changes too. I mean, I feel like going into this game, he's got the highest winning percentage among active head coaches too. This is a coach now that has gone from an great offensive mind, who had a love for his players, whose players loved him, who was a great recruiter, to now he embraced that CEO role this year and really figured out how to drive a championship program. And it was the lessons he learned too. You talk about the seniors, their story. I talk about, the 4 or 5 years they've gone through. Ryan Day, I feel like, has done a great job, and this is the payoff of learning season after season, growing as a head coach. First time coaching a team, first time as a head coach, and you fix the defense. You bring in Jim Knowles after, what happened with Kerry Combs those couple of years. This defense builds to become the best in the college football this year. You realize you need to give up play calling. You surrender those duties to Chip Kelly. And, man, this was a beautifully schemed game. I mean, the first touchdown pass to Jeremiah Smith. Not the first. The only touchdown pass to Jeremiah Smith. He only had 1 touchdown. Anyway, gorgeous play design where he runs across in an orbit motion, stops on a dime, and turns back out, and you get him wide open for a touchdown. I believe it was seen by Devontae Smith. Alabama ran a very similar play against Ohio State back in the 2021 CFP championship game. But the coaching decisions Ryan Day has made over the course of his career feels like all built to this moment, and to get that sort of big game monkey off of your back.
Yeah, and you guys were in the locker room. I was covering the post-game press conference, and Ryan Day received a question just about all the backlash he's received, the criticism he's received this season, not only this season but in years prior. He described it as, in his first 5 years coaching, Ohio State was constantly knocking on the door, is how he described it. In 19, they make the playoff, they lose to Clemson. In 20, they make the playoff. They beat Clemson, but they lose to Alabama in the championship game. And then you have the 2 years with C.J. Stroud, where many people say those rosters were as talented, or maybe the most talented team in the country those years, but they weren't able to have anything to show for it. And then last year, obviously, they lose to Michigan in the final game of the regular season. And Ryan Day said, he didn't exactly explain what he meant by this, but he said he understands it now. He understands that this team almost needed to face the adversity that it did to gain the resilience necessary to make big plays in big moments and win big games. And it's hard reality to face sometimes, because you don't necessarily want to say that an Ohio State team has to lose to Oregon, an Ohio State team has to lose to Michigan. It's significantly worse. But what Ohio State gained from those losses was the resilience necessary to win games in the playoff and to go on the run that they did. And I thought that was a very good summary of how the last few years have been. They've been knocking on the door, but this is the time they finally kicked it down.
And one more thing real quick, too. These players clearly would run through a brick wall for him. That much has been proven throughout this playoff run. You talked, again, to those guys in the locker room, and it was wanting to win this game for Ryan Day in many ways, feeling like the criticisms, the calls for his job, even saying he was on the brink of being fired, as, again, we did after that Michigan game, and was coaching for his job. They took that personally for Ryan, and it just shows you how much his players love him, how much he's able to relate to them, and ultimately your job as a coach is to get the best out of your players and build them as people. And anytime you talk to these players about that coach, it's clear that they believe that about him.
We are going to have so much more to come here from Atlanta, from the national championship game. Ryan Day said it, they had to win this game for the stories to be written. Well, there's going to be a lot of stories written about this team on 11 Warriors and elsewhere, and we can't wait to tell those stories. It's been a journey. I mean, it's been a long season. It's hard to believe the season's over because it's gone on for almost 5 full months. But the story of this team, there will be many more stories to be told about this team because what a run it's been. We are going to remember this season, this night, for a long, long time, as I know that so many of you are out there, and we're so grateful that you've followed us all year long, watched us here on After Carmen. We hope that you'll continue to stay along for the ride as we continue to cover the aftermath of this incredible championship season for the Buckeyes. So for Andy Anders, Chase Brown, I'm Dan Hope. We'll catch you next time.